Is the United Nations and the United States forming a post-conflict, post-apocalyptic security force to keep you in check? Stay tuned and we'll see if we can figure that out. Hey folks, welcome to Set Apart Homestead, the prepared homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for watching. I have an interesting topic to talk about today, but before we get started, thank you for watching, and if you'd want to, please subscribe to this channel. But also, I'm getting ready to drop my first newsletter, so if you all would like to be part of that, there will be a link down in the description below to sign up for that newsletter. I don't spam you. I'm not trying to force things down your throat or sell the list to anyone or anything like that. And if you sign up for the newsletter, you'll get a link to watch a video that's exclusive to the newsletter that's not going to be seen here on YouTube. So like I said, down in the description below, and you can sign up for that newsletter. So there's a little buzz that's going around a little bit online. Not a whole lot. There's certainly, well, there's pretty much nothing happening or being talked about in the news with this, but there is a little bit. You kind of have to do a little digging, and it's something from the United Nations. Now I know many of you, whether you're prepper or entertain different conspiracies and stuff. A lot of people have kind of gotten to the point that the UN is pretty much, a defunct organization, that they have no more power, that they're not really something to worry about. They don't really have the influence that they once did. And I don't believe that. I don't buy into that for a minute. They're kind of like a snake that's quiet and stealthy and, is able to blend in until it's ready to strike. And so I would never ever discount the United Nations on being a threat to liberty and a threat to your life, because they still have very much a globalist agenda. So anyways, let's move on. Something came out this week. I've got some notes here to kind of keep me on track because some information to cover. The United Nations, on their website, and you can go there, I've checked, it is true, they have a job posting, and it is in the New York City office, the main United Nations. They're now accepting job applications for disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officers to contribute to security and stability in post-conflict environments. If you go to their website, this job posting was posted on the 26th of December of 2019, so just a few days ago. They're strongly encouraging female candidates to also apply. They would like to have a 50-50 balance of gender. This will operate under the department's Peace Force Operations, which is their military branch. Don't buy into that peace word too much with them. And it goes on and it talks about the job posting is extremely lengthy. Talks about the people that are eager to conduct field missions, 7 years of 7 years of relevant experience in disarmament affairs, political analyst, or in a national military or paramilitary service. So they're looking definitely for experienced operators. If you keep going down, it describes the protocol for this disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration force as a complex process with political, military, security, humanitarian, socio-economic dimensions. The key components of this DDR, which is the disarmament, demobilization, reintegration, as defined by the UN, includes disarming civilian populations and the development of a responsible arms management programs. The development of responsible arms management programs, which is a fancy legal political term, I think, for confiscating your arms and they managing them. I'm just kind of skimming over. I've read this article a few times, so I'm just kind of skimming over some highlights. Let's see. One of the things that kind of it talks about in the job description, what the disarmament, it's a collection of documentation, control and disposal of small arms, ammunition, explosives, and light and heavy weapons military of combatants and also of the civilian population. Demobilization, former control and discharge of active combatants from armed forces and other armed groups. The first stages of demobilization, sorry, I'm having a hard time getting my tongue to work today, may extend from the process of individual combatants in temporary centers to the massing of troops in camps designated for this purpose. So in other words, we're talking about individual combatants, which would be citizens that's choosing to own a firearm and potentially use it to protect their freedoms, would be housed in temporary centers. So reinsertion, the assistance, in this assistance offering ex-combatants during demobilization, but prior to the longer-term process of reintegration. The reinsertion is a form of transitional assistance to help cover the basic needs of ex-combatants and their families, can include transitional safety allowances, food, medical, shelter, blah, blah, blah. So in other words, they're going to brainwash you after they confiscate your guns, put you in a detention facility, and while you're there, they are going to brainwash you to reinsert you back into society and to reintegrate you back into society. Here's an interesting thing that's on the UN website about this. It is important to break outside the traditional view of DDR participants as only being adult males carrying weapons. And remember that DDR participants and beneficiaries may fit all types of profiles, including female ex-combatants, women associated with armed forces groups, children, youth, and elderly persons living with disabilities. So in other words, they're not just looking at those militia guys that you see that go out and dress in their camouflage and carry around those big dangerous looking black weapons. They're also talking about women and children and elderly people and disabled people. So they're at least they're not, biased and discriminatory. So, you got to give the UN that. So anyways, there's a lot here, there really is, and in kind of prepping for this video, it was difficult to try to figure out what to say and what to cover in a short amount of time for a video, because although there's not a lot being talked about on the news, if you dig around on the UN's website and on this career posting for this job, there is a lot there. It's several pages long. And there's a lot to talk about in it. So basically, going by what I just told you folks, and this is stuff that's right on the UN's website. It's not some little underground little website that it's all fake news. You can go right to their website and find it. And they're not hiding the fact, they usually don't. It's kind of odd, a coincidence maybe, that something like this kind of pops up as a job opening when we have what's going on in Virginia happening. And they talk about more of that happening in other states, of potential disarmament, of draconian gun control laws being passed, and the threat from public officials to go in and use aggressive force to remove those guns from said, civilians, citizens, patriots, whatever term you want to use. And it's kind of funny that this has happened, and then if you add into all the things that we've talked about on here of the election popping up soon, and how that could create a lot of civil discourse and disillusion and potential civil war. All this talk about civil war, and we've gone into that on this channel before, that it's not just people like you and I online talking about it. It's mainstream media, it's politicians here in America, and it's government officials in other countries talking about that America is on the verge of a civil war. This is not something that's being talked about in the little shady chat rooms online that only the, the tinfoil wearing hat guys get on. We're talking about mainstream media, political, politicians and officials and governments in other parts of this world are talking about the odds and the potential and the getting themselves ready, because they all believe that America is on the verge of a civil war. And then all of a sudden the United Nations is accepting and training people to be disarmament, demobilization, and reintegration officers that specifically talk about, basically rounding up people, taking their firearms, putting them into camps, and reintegrating and brainwashing them to be back in society. Folks, that's some scary stuff. There is some, this is, believe it or not, I don't know how you cannot believe this when it's coming directly from their mouth. They are preparing for something. Every indication on every level of government all over this planet, the powers that are in charge are mobilizing themselves. They are preparing for something big, more so than it's been in the last decade or 2 or 3 decades. Right now, just in the last few months, they are gearing up for something big. And I think this is just one of those pieces that show that it's going to be, I think it's more than what we've seen in the past of just little laws passed and, that kind of stuff. I think they're gearing up for something serious. And this is, not the one thing that proves it, but I definitely believe that it's another thing to indicate that there's something serious happening. This thing with Virginia, there's been reports of Antifa being bussed in, that's already there on the ground. I can't verify this. This is stuff that I'm hearing from people that claim they have verifiable sources. There's also claims from those similar sources that that certain people are bussing in like MS-13 into Richmond, Virginia in preparations for for the rally that's going to be happening on the 20th. So there's a lot of things happening there, and I believe that that is a flashpoint, or it potentially could be, let me state that, it potentially could be a flashpoint for something happening here in the United States. It may not be the only thing, but it definitely has the potential. And then now you've got the United Nations talking about having officers here in the United States to specifically, confiscate firearms, put people in detention, and brainwash them so that they're capable of being good, docile, citizens. And I'm sure they'll be pumping their veins full of ridiculous vaccines to do that. So anyways, this is something, I know it's just a lot fast at you. I will see what links that I can leave in the comments below also. But you can also just go online and start searching, and you'll find this stuff. There's a few other YouTube videos and some articles out there, not a lot, because it's kind of new. This was just posted on the UN website on the 26th of December, so it's just a few days old. So it's something that's just starting to come out there. But folks, I think we're beginning to face, and we've already have, but we're definitely starting to face some pretty rough times in our life. And I hate to be the one to, do the sky is falling and, go out and cower under a rock. I'd like to try to keep things positive, but there are certainly a lot of things happening that we need to be aware of, because it's not starting to look good. In the end, it may work out pretty peaceful and okay, but I think there's certainly the chance of some bad things happening in the near future for us. So keep your powder dry and be ready. And thank you all for watching, and catch you in the next video.